at the end of the day, this may be the only time we experience the universe, and so my thoughts have always been, well, how am I going to sort of enjoy that experience,
All right. Well, let's take a look at each of your books, and so people can be aware of what's out there, and perhaps go in and pick a few of them up. So,
terrific.
Let's start with Howling at the Sky, your draconian architecture and the Sabian keys.
Right.
What was the ideas that inspired that book, or what's contained in that book?
Well, the idea was to sort of give a basic background of magical techniques where I felt that its origins lay, giving examples of basic workings, the material that could be memorized, and then interspersing that with what I look on as short story guided meditations, which people can read and hopefully be inspired by.
Okay. Now, you've also released a limited edition CD at one point that had a number of these short stories read by you.
Yeah, it's got the three stories from Howling at the Sky set to electronic music. And actually, if you get the hardcover edition of the Lucifer Diaries, it does come with a complimentary CD.
Okay. Well, since you said Lucifer Diaries, let's go to that one next.
Okay.
What is the Lucifer Diaries about?
Well, I always felt that, we have all these experiences, whether it's dreams, astral experiences in life, and they, by and large, tend to be viewed by most of us as independent and individual experiences. Whereas I think if you write them down and then you look at them over a period of time, you start to realize that all these experiences are interrelated, and that you start to get a thread, and it becomes story-like,
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the concept behind that. And also looking at the possibilities of what these entities we think we communicate with might be. And if we look through history, we hear of people being drawn up to heaven, people abducted into the fairy realm, and now people abducted by aliens. And I feel that there is, it's all the same phenomena.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just wanted to present that as an idea.
Now, Eschaton put out The Sun at Midnight.
The Sun at Night, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry,
that was
The Sun at Night.
second edition. The first edition came out in about 89.
Okay. And this is, I guess, closer to a collection of your short stories and kind of meditations?
Well, The Sun at Night is just I suppose a long short story.
Okay.
All right.
And what's the background of it?
Well, it's sort of I'd always like to think that it's sort of an inspiring tale of an individual being involved in life, confronted with situations, realizing how magical life can be. And so it's very much, I would say, sort of an adventure story.
In the whole
it has been called like a Luciferian parable, yeah.
Luciferian parable.
Yeah.
Okay. And I guess the most recent one put out by Magus Media is a reissue of the Black Book of the Jackal.
Yes, yeah. And that was, again, it was looking at the Kabbalah and the Egyptian Book of the Dead and looking at correlations between them. And there's a couple of chapters from the Egyptian Book of the Dead and the Kabbalah, and I sort of welded them together into sort of these like planetary workings that individuals can work through. Again, much like I suppose a lot of groups would do, whether it was the Golden Dawn or other groups, that sort of bring you to a place. And once you're at that place, you can then, I feel, experiment and strike out on your own.
Well, since you've been talking a number of times about going out on your own and building on your foundation and the Golden Dawn material and so forth that you learned in your youth, how did you go about kind of formulating your own system?
Well, in my teens and 20s, of course, I'd had sort of a perhaps the word is interesting, interesting adventures, you know. Mm-hmm. But I think initially we have to. It's imperative to memorize the basics. If it's ceremonial magic you're interested in, it's imperative to memorize the material, which would include, you know, the basic Hebrew letters for the Kabbalah, the correspondences, the elemental workings. These should all be committed to memory so that you can reel them off. So you can be anywhere in the world. You can be sitting on a plane, in a hotel room, wherever, and you have everything you need memorized.
Okay.
And I find that in that way, that what happens is all kinds of ideas come to you, and you can start playing with them and using the Kabbalah and toying with these things, and it becomes an internal experience. If you don't have the material memorized, then you don't get an opportunity for all these concepts to coagulate and start moving into other areas.
Okay, so you're kind of seeing as the traditional structure of the Kabbalah and astrology and all of those symbolic systems
Sure.
as kind of the springboard to kind of go off into your own your own direction.
It's like if you want to be original in story writing or music, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have a command of language or musical knowledge, you're hardly going to be able to do it, are you?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I feel that this is no different, you know. But again, I mean, I feel that all these techniques, although we do have quiet moments, they should be encouraging us to be more adventurous and moving more out into life rather than to be withdrawing from life. I think I've always felt that it's really important that life should be adventurous. Mm-hmm. And some people look on that as being one of the dangers of magic, that we perhaps get ourselves into situations that we perhaps wouldn't normally get into. But I feel that it's all a form of testing, and it's through this testing, going through these gates or Sephiroth or arets from the Egyptian Book of the Dead, that, you know, that we're challenged and we grow. And I feel that that's what's important, you know.
So if somebody took the time and memorized this material, right, just to kind of sum up what you're saying, they should, by working with the material, they should start getting inspired, and they should start getting ideas for experiments and kind of pulling on their own creativity and their own will and their own manifestation to create things from themselves.
Their own experiences, you bet. Yeah, I mean, I think that really all these things come from within. You know, there are things that we can be influenced by outside, but I'd say that all true magical experiences we generally get on our own and find within ourselves. And by having these, you know, if we want to call them path workings or astral experiences, you know, we're tapping these perhaps deeper levels that shaman would go to. And, you know, and then we can perhaps check through gematria and find all these correspondences, which initially seem to be like looking for the end of a piece of string. But it's through doing this, and I think thinking about these numbers and these correspondences that we have memorized, that eventually we start coming up with our own concepts, which might, you know, it might be just our way of looking at something that's, you know, that's been there for, you know, for God knows how long. But it's important because we've discovered it for ourselves, you know.
So I'm kind of getting that you have these various ideas, experiences, and then you start understanding through the work that you've done, memorizing and working with the structures, that you start seeing the relationships, and it's through those relationships that the meaning starts to reveal itself.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what do you see in your future? Are you working on any other books right now? You mentioned working on the tarot.
Yeah, that's sort of taken up most of my time. And the thing about, you know, I'd love to be able to perhaps I have some odd ideas for perhaps other books, but, you know, it's such a commitment to have to sort of sit down and do that, you know, because you've got to sort of get yourself into the mindset, or I do, sort of get into the zone. And so if I'm deciding to write a book, then that's all I'm going to do. And I just haven't got myself into that mindset to do another one yet.
Right, you know? Right.
Whereas I find the painting a lot more rewarding. It's more immediate. People can look at them and draw their own conclusions about them,
Okay.
Rather than trying to sort of, I think there's always a danger in writing books that you sort of, telling people how things are and what they should be doing, rather than perhaps, a picture which can, inspire people into their own way of things,
Mm-hmm. Well, if somebody wanted to get a copy of these books, how would they get in touch with you?
Well, they can. They're able to order them all through Magus Books, which is magusbooks.com, and they're all readily available there. There is a blog on there which can also lead you to absolutearts.com, and as I said earlier, there's some images of the tarot cards up there.
All right.
Or if people want to email me, that's fine, Roger at magusbooks.com, and I can, send them those links and, perhaps elucidate perhaps more some of the topics of the books,
Fantastic. Wonderful. Well, I appreciate you being on the show and talking about your books and your system and hopefully inspiring some people to get really engaged in the material and kind of embrace, reality as it is and start working and, hopefully go out and start manifesting their own magical practice. So
well, thanks for giving me the opportunity to sort of sound off here, John.
All right. Well, I'll talk to you later. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
93.
Bye-bye.
So that brings us to the end of another podcast. Thanks for listening, and thanks for everybody being patient and waiting for show 37 to come out. The outgoing music is another rap song by Scholar, who was on this program and has been featured a number of times. He released a song called Trust, and his music comes out with from a company called 156 Productions in Las Vegas, and I've been in contact with them, and they're doing some really good work, and they look to be releasing a CD in the near future and have some other bands and so forth, so people should check them out. And I'll have a link to their to Scholar's website, which then you can get to them. So, but this is a song that Scholar wrote looking at trust and maybe kind of looking at some of the stuff that's going on in the OTO and why so many difficulties are happening and why there's such a lack of trust. So listen to the lyrics. Thanks for listening to the podcast, and I hope you stick around for show 38 coming out in a few weeks. Love is the law. Love under will.
There are a lot of issues going on right now. But one topic which seems to cover all of them is trust. All I want is the freedom coming from New Aeon. But every time I turn my back, new drama's going on. Bishops are flipping and discipline for people's blogs. Noses are sniffing in business as if we were dogs. And Gnostic man sluts put the priestess on for pause. While Vegas is burning, we give the fire another log. The unaffiliated try to see through all the smog. And all the people standing up for freedom get flogged. And we're on the same team, supposedly love is law. But we can't agree, we seem to fight for a different cause. But who's the boss when everybody is a star? Humanity's filled with flaws. Do we have enough gauze to care for all these scars and take a pause from applause? And the cause that we floss, we get lost in this gloss, and it costs us, yet we trot along. And the only thing that's missing is Scholar to write another song. Trust, I wanna trust you. I wanna believe the seeds you speak will really be reaped. Trust, you wanna trust me, but all we see is each other screaming how much the other should just trust. I wanna trust you, I wanna believe the seeds you speak will really be reaped. Trust, you wanna trust me, but all we see is each other screaming how much the other should just You can't trust me cause I'm a fictitious entity, a literary device to fight for what's right. I'm not living in sin, I'm living in lust, impassioned by the path of the great work. And even though these words hurt a chosen few, I've gotta do whatever I can do to stay true to the smoothness in my integrity. I gotta speak out when they wanna throw free speech out and reach out to the people they would rather shut down, but morale's already at a low, so I go to the next step. I wanna show that there's hope, but there's not much left, and this boat that we row hasn't got much depth. We the people have gotta be the reason we continue to be perceived as a human being, and we can give in to lust, in fact we must, but